Good afternoon, viewers and listeners of Concerned Citizens Media. Welcome back and nice to have you here. Today is September 2021. Thank you again for coming back. I always appreciate you joining me and sharing, especially your comment on my videos. Thank you so much. So I got some news to share with you. I will start with update on the war, and especially on northern part between TDF and with all other forces, including the Eritrean Defense Forces. There is not much change in that area. It's still heavy, tense fighting in a Wallo, Kombolcha front, and also in a Gondar front. Not that much change, but TDF friendly medias are reporting the capture of Amdawork town by Tigray Defense Forces. Amdawork town. Other than that, the fighting is still heavy, still tense, no breakthrough. So I will report when anything breaking from that area. But the fighting is still tense, very heavy military confrontation, and there is no sign of peace in that area because Abiy Ahmed vowed to continue use all the country's resources to continue the bloodshed. No ending sight. Concerning the Oromo Liberation Army, still the operation for freedom continues. They are gaining ground, slowly, despite one senior official joining Prosperity Party. His name is Jal Golcha Enge. Jal Golcha Enge joined Prosperity Party at this time. Maybe I don't know why. Maybe the Prosperity Party offered him some money or some position. We don't know, but he indicated he opposed OLA relation with TDF and OLF objective, as anti-Oromo. So what that's his belief. He's already joined Prosperity Party of Ethiopia. So let him go. But OLA must secured all the information this guy knows. He might be a danger for OLA movement or for all Oromos supporting the freedom fighters. So they have to think about that, secured whatever this guy knows, change something if it's necessary, because he is already in the enemy hand. They can use him for several different purposes. So only they have to revise whatever this guy knows. So except that OLA is still strong, it still continues its movement. The other thing is Deputy Prime Minister Demeke Mekonnen is in New York, in the United States, and he's here for the UN 76th General Session. I think for that purpose. Other than that, he could not come into the United States because of the restriction. But now the United Nations, invited him. Even though Ethiopia is under restriction, they can still come if the United Nations invited those guests. So under the UN invitation. But I don't think he got a right to move other states from United Nations headquarters, New York. So Ethiopia is still under visa restriction, and he is one of the official responsible for this continued war and bloodshed. But he is here. Abiy Ahmed stayed. I think Abiy Ahmed is scared of maybe some, I don't know why. I didn't see him coming into the UN General Meeting. So he sent Dembele last time, I think. So he never been here. So maybe he's scared because of too much blood in his hand. So that's all for just a little bit briefing. I will start with a video. Then I have a couple of videos at the end, and I have some news to read between. So the first video is about the formation of Worldwide Oromo Congress, which is good to coordinate Oromo's effort for freedom movement. Let's listen. It's in English, and let's see.
Declaration and resolution of the World Oromo Congress. Whereas the historic World Oromo Congress held its founding Congress in Fridley, Minnesota, September 18 to 19, 2021, and attended by delegates of Oromo organizations around the world, as well as activists, artists, business persons, scholars, veterans of the struggle, and Oromo notables who have contributed to the advancement of the Oromo cause in their respective fields. Whereas the delegates to this Congress thoroughly discussed two constitutive documents in plenary and breakout sessions, deliberated on, made a series of amendments and modifications, approved them, and by so doing established the World Oromo Congress and its principal bodies. We, the participants in the founding Congress, hereby declare the formation of the World Oromo Congress in order better to organize the Oromo in the diaspora around the goal of supporting the Oromo struggle for auto-emancipation in a systematic, sustainable, and coherent way. Considering that the Ethiopian regime.
Now with the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 3 on Verizon 5G, download a movie on the go while acting in a movie. While also
This is advertisement. That's
an
the challenge.
avowed enemy of the Oromo national struggle for self-determination has blocked all means of peaceful transition to address the political demands of the Oromo nation, for which thousands of our compatriots have paid dearly, including with their lives. Cognizant that the incumbent dictatorial regime has committed murder, torture, imprisonment, and egregious human rights abuse against the Oromo people in general, and particularly political leaders of the nation, and banned activities of independent Oromo political organizations. Aware that an all-out attack on Oromoma and Sabunuma of Oromo is being actively pursued as a state policy with the aim of dismantling Oromia and restoring the decadent imperial rule over the Oromo nation, mindful of our nation's situation. This Congress will work for the Oromo people with the main objective of liberating Oromia and Oromoma from the brutal clutches of the Prosperity Party's rule of violence, and to ensure the Oromo people's sovereignty over Oromia, recognizing that the Oromo nation and the Oromo nationalists have shown both firmness and resolve to rally around the national defense strategy of the Oromo Liberation Army, OLA, and counter any challenge that faces the nation. Whereas the entire Oromo nation, speaking in one voice, expressed its determination to stand with the OLA and end the century-old colonial rule and realize its natural right to self-determination. We who are gathered for the inaugural meeting of the World Oromo Congress have resolved to stand united in solidarity with the Oromo Liberation Army, resolved to stand behind the ONLF ongoing multifaceted struggle against tyranny and for freedom and liberty of the Oromo people and the liberation of Oromia, resolved to mobilize the Oromo community in the diaspora to stand with and in support of the Oromo Liberation Army, who are bravely risking their lives in pursuit of liberation of the Oromo nation from imperial tyranny and a democratic future for Oromia, resolved to be the voice of the Oromo nation in the international arena and work to persuade the international community to stand with the Oromo nation's fight for liberation. Resolved in Fridley, Minnesota, September 19th, 2021.
So, amma waan dubbatame resolutionii kanarratti mana kanarraa approvalii keessan gaafannaa jechuudha. Declarationii amma dubbatame irratti waliigaltuu isa jedhu jechuudha. Yoo waliigaltu ta'e harka keessan baasuudhaan nutti argisiifattu jechuudha.
Okay, that's
So declaration kanarratti gaaffiin
it's about the formation of Worldwide Oromo Congress, which is very encouraging to unite Oromos and to support OLA and other organizations in their effort for freedom of Oromia and for the freedom of all Oromos from tyranny. So they deserve our appreciation. Dr. Iskel Gabisa, Dr. Henok, and others, Tsaggai Ararsa worked hard for this formation, to unite all Oromo efforts under one umbrella. So it's very encouraging. We need to join them, support them with whatever we can financially, with our with other means too. So it's very encouraging. Concerned citizens media wish them success in their endeavor, in their movement for freedom, and to end the bloodshed, to end the atrocities, especially happening in Oromia against Oromos. So that's the formation of the Worldwide Oromo Congress. So good luck, and please join them, support them, so freedom will, will be achieved very quickly before too much bloodshed and before this guy became the worst dictator. He's already a dictator in Ethiopia. Okay, I will back with other videos at the end, but let's see some other news. Thank you again for joining Concerned Citizens Media. U.S. Defense Trade Controls issue notice to U.S. defense manufacturers on policy of denial for controlled defense exports to Ethiopia and Eritrea. Director of Defense Trade Control or DDTC implemented a policy of denial for exports of defense articles and defense services to or for the armed forces, police, intelligence, or other internal security forces of Ethiopia and Eritrea, reflecting this announcement. So now the embargo, the arms embargo, is imposed on Eritrea and Ethiopia. Security forces, police, intelligence, and other internal security forces of Ethiopia and Eritrea. So credit for this one is at this standard. So that's the embargo. More is coming up. More opposition parties pull out of upcoming election in Somalia region. The Somalia Region branch of the Ethiopian Citizens for Social Justice, EZEMA, and the Freedom and Equality Party announced their withdrawal from the second round of the sixth national election. This comes only days after the withdrawal of Ogden National Liberation Front, ONLF, and 9 days before the ballot day in the region. The regional branch of EZEMA and FEP announced their withdrawal in a joint statement released today. They highlighted the reasons behind the withdrawal and announced that both parties will join the Ogden National Liberation Front in withdrawing from elections. Because of the aforementioned reason and with the absence of possibility for a free and fair election, we withdraw from the election scheduled to take place on September 30, 2021. Abdi Mahdi, the chairman of the Ogaden National Liberation Front, told Addis Standard that there is no sense in pursuing an election that has already been decided. Credit Addis Standard. So EZEMA and EFP and Ogaden Liberation Front, they are out of they boycotting the upcoming election in Somalia region. The Ethiopian government claimed that Ethiopia never had election like this before. Very democratic, very free, blah, 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 blah. But by all indication, this election is not free and fair. These are, the latest indication of that issue. Prosperity Party used different tactics to secure its election to make sure Prosperity Party wins. So it cannot be democratic election. ONLF, Oromo Federal Congress, and others withdraw from election. So it is not free. It's not fair. It is corrupt. It's corrupt. They know it, and but they claim to cheat Ethiopians and the global community. Sudan government says the situation under control after a failed Islamist coup. The Sudanese government officials confirmed that all the military involved in the failed coup have been arrested and the situation is under control. Today, Tuesday, September 21, at dawn, the army put down an attempted coup by a group of officers affiliated with the remnants of the former regime, said Information Minister Hamza Balu in a press statement released today. The army thwarted a coup attempt. More details later. Welcome back again. For some reason, the video was disconnected while I was reading about the coup in Sudan. So I will continue. Sorry about that. The army thwarted a coup attempt. More detail later, said the army spokesman Tahir Abu Haja in a very short statement. Balu added that the coup plotters, military and the civilians have been arrested, including those who were in the armored corps in the Shagara suburb south of Khartoum. The pacifist element in the last to surrender. Military source identified the military involved in the foiled coup as Islamist officers affiliated with the former regime. Local media said 18 militaries have been arrested, including Major General Abdul Basit Bakraoy, who is likely to be the commander of the operation. The Sudan Tribune learned that Bakraoy had been in Cairo for several months. He is suspected to have been planned the operations there with the Sudanese Islamists residing in Egypt. The Sudanese Ministry of Information stressed that the components of the transitional government are working in complete coordination according to the situation is under complete control. About 3 o'clock in the morning, the army thwarted an attempt by the pacifists to take control of the radio and the television station, which are located side by side. Pro-democracy activists already launched a campaign against the head of the Transitional Sovereign Council, Abdul Fattah al-Burhani, saying he rejected calls to purge the army from the Islamist officers. Credit Sudan Tribune. So it's a very fluid situation. The Sudanese government is still in the transition mode. So now some are trying to do the coup. So we'll see, but they survived. Call for Somalia's president and prime minister to resolve dispute and complete election. Press statement from U.S. State Department. Cooperation among Somalia's leaders, particularly President Farmajo and Prime Minister Roble, is essential to ensure that the country quickly completes its ongoing electoral process. The dispute between President Farmajo and Prime Minister Roble risks complicating this process and need to be resolved immediately and peacefully. The United States welcomes both sides' stated commitment to the electoral process, but remains concerned that these elections are already months behind schedule. Any further delay increases the potential for violence and plays into the hands of Al-Shabaab and other extremist groups seeking to destabilize the country. Based on our shared interest to ensure the electoral process moves forward, we call on the President and the Prime Minister to avoid further provocative statements or actions, and to resolve their disagreement over personal appointment and disrespect their respective authorities peacefully. Rapidly completing the electoral process will help advance the country's counter-terrorism agenda and give the next government the opportunity to meet the needs of Somalia's people. Somalian citizens deserve nothing less. Credit U.S. State Department. Okay, the update on COVID-19. The first one is good news. I have two news about COVID-19 related news. So let's start with good news. Pfizer says COVID-19 vaccine safe and effective for children aged 5 to 11. Pfizer on Monday said a large-scale trial has shown that its COVID-19 vaccine is safe and effective for those aged 5 to 11, which could pave the way forward for children in this age group to be inoculated within months. The company and its partner BioNTech added that they will seek U.S. authorization for this age group soon. Janet Woodcock, acting commissioner of the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, said that once the agency receives the application, its process for determining if the vaccine is safe and effective for children in the younger age group includes verifying the manufacturing process for lower concentration of the shot and a study of its safety. We will look at the clinical data and make sure that children responded to the vaccine the way we could expect, Mrs. Woodcock said. Top U.S. health officials believe a decision could be made within 3 weeks of the companies submitting a request for authorization, Reuters reported. Children aged 5 to 11 will receive 2 shots of a 10 microgram dose of the vaccine, a third of the dose size given to those aged 12 and older. Unlike the large clinical trial the drug makers previously conducted in adults, the 2,268 participant pediatric trial was not primarily designed to measure the vaccine's efficacy by comparing the number of COVID-19 cases in vaccine recipients to those who received a placebo. Instead, it compares the amount of neutralizing antibodies induced by the vaccine in children to the response of older recipients in the adult trial. Pressure to immune children has mounted in the United States with the beginning of the school year, and the highly transmissible Delta variant has led to a surge in cases. A recent report from the American Academy of Pediatrics noted that children accounted for 28% of U.S. COVID-19 cases. There is no indication, however, that the Delta variant is more dangerous for children. The Pfizer vaccine is one of the 3 administered in the United States and the only one to have received full FDA approval. Pfizer said its vaccine was 95% effective in the adult clinical trial, but argued its strength wanes after several months. Last week, the FDA advisory panel rejected Pfizer's proposal for a booster shot for the general U.S. population but approved one for older and high-risk Americans. So that's good news for younger kids, 5 to 11. So I hope it will be safe and effective, and I hope it will get the FDA approval so we can be safe from 0 age to seniors. Okay, bad or tragic news about COVID-19. This is the last part of reading for today. U.S. COVID-19 death toll surpasses that of the 1918 flu pandemic. The United States reached another grave COVID-19 milestone on Monday, with the death toll surpass that of the 1918 flu pandemic. A widely referenced database from Johns Hopkins University showed that the number of deaths from COVID-19 now number 675,446. This is yesterday, so it could be higher today, but it's 675,446 as of yesterday died of COVID-19. It's very tragic. In addition to the high death toll, the United States also leads the world in recorded infections. The number of reported deaths from COVID-19 in the United States will surpass the toll of the 1918 flu pandemic this month, tweeted Tom Frieden, the former director of the U.S. Center for Disease Control and Prevention, or CDC, last week. We cannot become hardened to the continuing and largely preventable tragedy. The U.S. Center for Disease Control and Prevention estimated that 675,000 people died during the 2-year influenza pandemic that occurred between 1918 and 1919. Statistics from the event, however, are only rough numbers, largely due to the lack of organized records at the time. It is also expected that the COVID-19 death count is underestimated in the United States and globally. The United States population now at 332 million was far lower 100 years ago. Statistically, 1 in 150 people died from the 1918 flu in the United States. The Washington Post reported, and currently about 1 in 500 people has died from COVID-19. So the death toll is still increasing, the infection is still high, and the Delta variant is still around. So please keep using common sense and follow all proper CDC guidelines and other medical personnel's advice, and you have to take it seriously. We are not out of the wood yet, and so keep yourself and your family safe from this very dangerous virus. Okay, that's the reading part is over. Let's see a couple of videos and conclude today's presentation. Thank you again. So the first one is a script from Biden's United Nations speech. I don't want you to listen the whole long speeches, but a little bit touch on Ethiopia and some other issues. If you want to listen to the whole speech, it is available under United Nations or Reuters or BBC, so you can do that. But just listen a little bit. Okay, here we go. Here we go.
Food, water, shelter, emergency health care, and other vital life-saving aid to millions of people in need. When the earthquake strikes, a typhoon rages, or disaster anywhere in the world, the United States shows up. We'll be ready to help. And at a time when nearly 1 in 3 people globally do not have access to adequate food just last year, the United States is committing to rallying our partners to address immediate malnutrition and to ensure that we can sustainably feed the world for the decades to come. To that end, the United States is making a $10 billion commitment to end hunger and invest in food systems at home and abroad. Since 2000, the United States government has provided more than $140 billion to advance health and strengthen health systems, and we will continue our leadership to drive these vital investments to make people's lives better every single day. Just give them a little breathing room. And as we strive to make lives better, we must work with renewed purpose to end the conflicts that are driving so much pain and hurt around the world. We must redouble our diplomacy and commit to political negotiations, not violence, as a tool of first resort. To manage tensions around the world, we must seek a future of greater peace and security for all people of the Middle East. The commitment of the United States to Israel's security is without question. And our support for an independent Jewish state is unequivocal. But I continue to believe that a two-state solution is the best way to ensure Israel's future as a Jewish democratic state, living in peace alongside a viable, sovereign, and democratic Palestinian state. We're a long way from that goal at this moment, but we must never allow ourselves to give up on the possibility of progress. We cannot give up on solving raging civil conflicts, including in Ethiopia and Yemen, where fighting between warring parties is driving famine, horrific violence, human rights violations against civilians, including the consummate use of rape as a weapon of war. We'll continue to work with the international community to press for peace and bring an end to this suffering. As we pursue diplomacy across the board, the United States will champion the democratic values that go to the very heart of who we are as a nation and a people. Freedom, equality, opportunity, and a belief in the universal rights of all people. It's stamped into our DNA as a nation, and critically, it's stamped into the DNA of this institution, the United States. We sometimes forget. I quote the opening words of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, quote, "The equal and inalienable rights of all members of the human family is the foundation of freedom, justice, and peace in the world." The founding ethos of the United Nations places the rights of individuals at the center of our system. And that clarity and vision must not be ignored or misinterpreted. The United States will do our part, but will be more successful and more impactful if all of our nations are working toward the full mission to which we are called. That's why more than 100 nations united again around a shared statement. The Security Council adopted a resolution outlining how we'll support the people of Afghanistan moving forward, laying out the expectations to which we'll hold the Taliban when it comes to respecting universal human rights. We all must advocate for women, the rights of women and girls to use their full talents, to contribute economically, politically, and socially, and pursue their dreams free of violence and intimidation. From Central America to the Middle East to Africa to Afghanistan, wherever it appears in the world. We all must call out and condemn the targeting
and oppression of racial, ethnic, and religious minorities. Whether it occurs in Xinjiang or northern Ethiopia or anywhere in the world. We all must defend the rights of LGBTQI individuals so they can live and love openly without fear, whether it's Chechnya or Cameroon or anywhere. As we steer our nations toward this inflection point and work to meet today's fast-moving, cross-cutting challenges, let me be clear. I am not agnostic about the future we want for the world. The future will belong to those who embrace human dignity, not trample it. The future will belong to those who unleash the potential of their people, not those who stifle it. The future will belong to those who give their people the ability to breathe free, not those who seek to suffocate their people with an iron hand. Authoritarianism, the authoritarianism of the world, may seek to proclaim the end of the age of democracy, but they're wrong. The truth is, the democratic world is everywhere. It lives in the anti-corruption activists, human rights defenders, the journalists, the peace protesters. On the front lines of this struggle in Belarus, Burma, Syria, Cuba, Venezuela, and everywhere in between. It lives in the brave women of Sudan who withstood violence and oppression to push a genocidal dictator from power and who keep working every day to defend their democratic progress. It lives in the proud Moldovans who helped deliver a landslide victory for the forces of democracy with a mandate to fight graft, to build a more inclusive economy. It lives in the young people of Zambia who harness the power of their vote for the first time, turning out in record numbers to denounce corruption and chart a new path for their country. And while no democracy is perfect, including the United States, we'll continue to struggle to live up to the highest ideals to heal our divisions. And we face down violence and insurrection. Democracy remains the best tool we have to unleash our full human potential. My fellow leaders, this is a moment where we must prove ourselves the equals of those who come before us, who with vision and values and determined faith in our collective future built our United Nations, broke the cycle of war and destruction, and laid the foundations for more than 7 decades of relative peace and growing global prosperity. Now, we must again come together to affirm the inherent humanity that unites us is much greater than any outward divisions or disagreements. We must choose to do more than we think we can do alone so that we accomplish what we must together. Ending this pandemic and making sure we're better prepared for the next one. Staving off climactic climate change and increasing our resilience to the impacts we already are seeing. Ensuring a future where technologies are a vital tool to solving human challenges and empowering human potential, not a source of greater strife and repression. These are the challenges that we will determine what the world looks like for our children and our grandchildren and what they'll inherit. We can only meet them by looking to the future. I stand here today for the first time in 20 years, the United States not at war. We've turned the page. All the unmatched strength, energy, and commitment, will, and resources of our nation are now fully and squarely focused on what's ahead of us, not what was behind. I know this. As we look ahead, we will lead. We will lead on all the greatest challenges of our time, from COVID to climate, peace and security, human dignity and human rights, but we will not go alone. We will lead together with our allies and partners and in cooperation with all those who believe as we do that this is within our power to meet these challenges, to build a future that lifts all of our people and preserves this planet. But none of this is inevitable. It's a choice. And I can tell you where America stands. We will choose to build a better future. We, you and I, we have the will and capacity to make it better. Ladies and gentlemen, we cannot afford to waste any more time. Let's get to work. Let's make our better future now. We can do this. It's within our power and capacity. Thank you. God bless you all.
Okay, that's Joe Biden.
University of Phoenix is awarding up to $1 million
Speech to
in new scholarships
76th
this month.
Annual
If you've been waiting
General
for an
Assembly.
opportunity to go back to school, it's time to stop waiting. See what scholarship you may qualify for at phoenix.edu.
It's crazy.
The Super Michelle is being used for the ab initio training of our pilots. And as it is now, this will enhance.
Okay, this one is about Nigeria purchasing
pilots,
some helicopters from Pakistan.
Pilot training for these ab initio students to be completed within the time allotted for it, and thereafter getting them to go for further training in quick time, and finally getting them launched into the battlefield in the northeast.
This is going to go a long way to make the friendship more stronger in between the two countries, and this should definitely increase the capability of the training that already Nigerian Air Force has. Like Super Mushak is capable of flying all the maneuvers, and the entire envelope of the flying training can be covered by this Super Mushak. So we are very hopeful that Nigerian Air Force takes over from us very amicably, and we are very forthcoming in providing all sort of training, all sort of maintenance support to them.
Okay, I hope the Nigerian government use these helicopters to build peace and stability for Nigerian people. You know, they have issue over there, the so-called Islamic terrorists. Even though they have some legitimate issues, still they put them under Islamic terrorists and continue the operation, military operation. It's not easy. We have a big problem in Africa. We cannot sit down on the table and see the problem and resolve the problem, whether in Nigeria or Mozambique or Ethiopia, wherever it is. We have challenge, and we have to sit down, see how can we resolve without military confrontation. So we can spend the money we spend on purchasing helicopters, tanks. We can spend on healthcare. Challenge we are facing in COVID-19 research. Creating our own medicine, our own COVID-19 vaccine, or investing in education, invest in farming. So we can do a lot, but we still don't have the skill and the will to resolve our issue peacefully through dialogue, through reconciliation. So I hope the Nigerian government reconsider dialogue, reconciliation with locals, and deal with the issue around the table. And I also appreciate General Joe Biden's inclusive speech, collective speech, and challenging the global challenge instead of unilaterally calling on other leaders to join him and fighting corruption, fighting dictatorship, fighting COVID-19 and other climate issues and other issues. So the call is encouraging, and United States is back with working with the intention of working with other countries. It's not like Donald Trump. ignoring the United Nations, demonizing the United Nations, withdrawing from World Health Organization, and blah, blah. So we have a different kind of leadership. Joe Biden is a global leader. He is working with others to resolve the crisis in Ethiopia, Yemen, and elsewhere. So it's appreciative. We need to appreciate that one. So that's all I have for today. Please be safe, and I will be back with other news and comments from Concerned Citizens Media. Thank you for joining me. So long, everyone.